failed in so many other things, at the very least she could refrain from yelling. She clasped her hands at her waist and pressed hard against her aching stomach. "If you have to go, then take me along." He groaned. "We've been over this, and over it, and over it. A construction site is no place for—" "I wouldn't go to work with you. I'd stay in the hotel or do some sightseeing. At least we'd have the evenings together." How she hated the long, lonely days when he was away. But then, sometimes it was lonely with him home. Anthony drew in a breath that strained the buttons on his chambray work shirt. 36 years old and more broad-shouldered and muscular than he'd been at 20. But she hadn't changed, still as slender as she'd been the day they exchanged vows. How she envied the women with broadened hips, pooching bellies, and sagging breasts. His shoulders seemed to wilt as his lungs emptied of air. He set the suitcase on the floor with a light thud and cupped his wide hands over her shoulders. "Martha." He called her Martha only when his patience was spent. He'd called her Martha more times than she could count over the past 2 years. "Noblesville is lots bigger than Pine Hill, that's true, but there aren't enough sites to keep you busy for a full week." "Then I'll—" "And before you say you'll stay in the hotel room and read, I already told you no." His blue eyes, usually the color of a cloudless summer sky, darkened, as if a storm brewed within. "I need to focus on the job, on the materials, on the workers. Sure, my men can be trusted, but some of the subcontractors aren't honest. If I'm not there to inspect things, they might bring me warped boards or watered-down paint, thinking they can put one over on a simple-minded Mennonite man. That's why I go to the sites, so my reputation doesn't get banged up because somebody else didn't do their best." "Knowing why you go doesn't make me any less lonely." He rubbed his palms up and down her short sleeves, the firm touch sending shivers across her frame. "Then don't stay here by yourself. Invite some of your friends to the house for cake and coffee. Drive to Lafayette and browse the mall." She shrugged. "I don't know." "Well, then visit Donna. You've hardly gone out to the farm since she had her last baby. She'd probably appreciate help with the other kids, especially now that school's out and all 4 of them are underfoot." He couldn't have hurt her more if he'd skewered her with a sword. For him to suggest such a thing meant he didn't know her. Not at her core, where she desperately needed his understanding. She hugged herself and battled tears. "I can't." His expression hardened, and his hands stilled on her upper arms. "Then stay here by yourself and be lonely. I don't know what else to tell you, but I've got to go." He dipped his head, his lips puckering. She shifted her face slightly, and the kiss landed next to instead of on her mouth. He released a soft snort as he let go of her and picked up the suitcase. "I'll call when I get settled in the hotel. Bye, Marty." At least he'd called her Marty. She trailed him as far as the edge of the porch, then remained rooted in place, bare toes curled over the gray-painted planks, arms loosely wrapped around a post. He tossed his suitcase into the bed of his pickup truck in one smooth motion and opened the driver's door. He paused, his head low, as if he was contemplating something important, and a tiny flicker of hope came to life in the center of her heart. Was he rethinking his decision to leave her behind? Would he let her come? Without glancing in her direction, he jolted, climbed behind the wheel, and pulled the door shut with a firm yank. Moments later, the engine roared to life. The tiny flicker was extinguished as effectively as a birthday candle from a puff of breath. As he pulled out of their gravel driveway and onto the dirt street, the neighbors' children darted across their grassy yard and chased after him, kicking at the billows of dust stirred up by the truck's rubber tires. Their laughter rubbed salt into the ever-festering wounds on Marty's heart, and she scuttled inside.